Anti-aircraft fire lit up the night sky in flames. Lieutenant James Connor's hands quivered on the controls of the B-24 bomber, but not for fear. After 23 triumphant missions over Japan, it was meant to be his final flight before heading home. Now it felt like it could really be his last. "Zeros! 3 o'clock high!" his gunner yelled on the intercom. It was April 12, 1945, and the Battle of Okinawa was nearing its bloody climax. Beneath them, on a secret airfield tucked away in the mountains of Okinawa, Commander Kenji Yamamoto was getting ready for a mission of his own. Having amassed 27 kills as Japan's top night fighter ace, he was specially selected to lead this desperate defense of Japan's last significant bastion. "Tonight, we will deal a blow that will shake America's confidence," Yamamoto told his pilots, standing in front of their specially modified Zeros set up for night fighting. "Our radar operators have figured in coming a large bombing raid. We will demonstrate to them that the spirit of Japan burns brightest at the darkest hour." As his mechanics ran final checks on his Zero, Yamamoto touched the crumpled photo in his breast pocket. His wife Yuki and their 3 daughters smiled back at him, their final family picture before Tokyo was bombed. He had not heard from them in 2 months. Just the idea of what would happen to them spurred him on. Now, back in the air, Connor's bomber formation was getting into serious trouble. Japanese radar-guided searchlights had caught multiple planes in their beams, and they were sitting targets. 2 B-24s had already been shot down, their flaming wreckage lighting up the ocean below. "Bank left! Left!" Tracer fire shot by their wing, and Connor's co-pilot shouted. A Japanese Zero appeared from the dark, guns firing. Connor threw the heavy bomber into a panic-evasive maneuver, the airframe groaning under him. Yamamoto, flying the assault Zero, cursed as his shot went wide. These American pilots were improving, learning how to fly unpredictable patterns in the dark. He keyed his radio. "All units, they're breaking formation. Wage war on the separated first." The dark sky turned into a deadly chess match. American gunners shot at muzzle flashes and shadows, and Japanese pilots lined up their attacks using the moonlight reflected off the B-24's wings. The Americans had the numerical superiority in firepower, while the Japanese had the advantage of familiarity with home skies. Connor's luck ran out when a 20mm cannon shell detonated inside his right wing fuel tank. "The number 3 and 4 engines are gone," his flight engineer reported. "We're losing altitude fast." Connor had already spotted 3 Zeros circling like sharks as his crippled bomber drifted behind the formation. He understood that the Japanese pilots could dispatch them in a flash, but he would not surrender without a fight. To all gunners, do not fire until they're close. Make every bullet count. Yamamoto guided the attack on the distressed B-24, all the while admiring the Americans' impressive resolve even as he zeroed in for the kill. Suddenly, his radar operator shouted, "Commander, another pair of aircraft heading in from the east, American night fighters." That was before the P-61 Black Widow night fighters showed up. These heavily armed American interceptors had been tailored for night combat, and they ripped into Yamamoto's squadron with devastating effect. Connor was amazed to see the night sky erupting into a whirling dogfight of tracers and explosions. His gunners did manage to hit 1 Zero, sending it into a tailspin in the blackness. But his bomber continued losing altitude, now down to 3,000 feet. Yamamoto watched his own squadron get slaughtered. He had already lost 6 of his 12 Zeros, but the Americans were still coming. In a split-second decision, he instructed his remaining pilots to withdraw while he initiated a solo strike on the crippled B-24. The next was a deadly dance between 2 expert foes. Connor threw his stricken bomber into desperate maneuvers, while Yamamoto made pass after pass, closing on a killing shot each time. Each man fought for more than his own life. He fought for the pride of his nation. The end came suddenly. Yamamoto's final attack run established a perfect shot, but as he squeezed the trigger, his guns clicked dry. Simon is last seen bracketed by his two foes when Connor's tail gunner scores a lucky hit on the Zero's engine. Yamamoto's plane split into flames, but rather than bail out, he pointed his igniting fighter directly into the bomber's cockpit. The flaming Zero filled his windscreen, growling closer. In that moment, time was suspended. Yamamoto was unmistakably in his cockpit, their eyes locked across emptiness. Both men saw in the other the same devotion, the same readiness to lay down his life for the cause. Connor put his bomber into a dive at the very last moment. Yamamoto's Zero roared over them, missing by inches and crashing into the ocean. The last radio transmission from the Japanese ace was simply "Sayonara." Beating the odds, Connor ditched his crippled B-24 in the ocean, near an American destroyer. His entire crew survived, except for two. They were the fortunate ones. That night, 15 American bombers and 18 Japanese fighters were lost. Years later, Connor returned to Okinawa as a tourist. At a small shrine by the old airfield, he encountered an elderly Japanese woman, Yamamoto's widow, Yuki. She showed him the last letter her husband sent her the day before that last battle. It said, "In another time, in another world, maybe our children could have played together." Connor presented her with one of his squadron patches and told her through an interpreter, "Your husband was the bravest pilot I ever encountered." In death, there are no enemies. Yuki smiled through tears. There's a small display about that night battle today at the Okinawa Peace Memorial. It includes photos of both Connor and Yamamoto standing side by side with a simple statement: "Courage knows no nationality." The Battle of Okinawa would continue for 2 more months, taking more than 200,000 lives. But that nighttime battle in April became legendary among American and Japanese veterans alike, a testament to the skill, courage, and humanity of combatants on both sides. This story, as many from World War II do, reminds us that even in humanity's darkest hours, individual acts of bravery and mutual respect can shine through the chaos of war, leaving lessons that are echoed through the generations.